Hello, I'm Teresa Connors from Finextra here in the FinextraTV studio at EBAday 2025. I'm delighted to be joined by Sathish Padmanathan from Tietoevry. Hello and
Hi.
Welcome. Sathish is going to talk to us today about the findings from a research paper on the modernisation of banking. So to business, Sathish, your paper has been recently released. Where are banks on their modernisation journey?
It's an interesting question because in the EBAday I've at least met 30 customers of ours and some members of the community. The feeling is they've been very busy, both modernizing the platform, but also staying up compliant, meeting the regulatory demands. So I think it's both the modernization and being compliant, on going along, and it has been very busy. So on the compliance part, I think they've been fairly doing well so far with the ISO migration. They've been keeping the timeline. But the modernization has kind of probably not turned out as they expected, because in order to be compliant, you have to modernize by a date. And some of the banks did modernization from the scratch. Some banks made a tactical solution to be compliant, because you can't do everything at the same time. So it's a mix of two different roles. Some banks really got there, while some banks have a tactical solution, and then modernization would be a continuous journey for them.
So there's a real mix of sort of a compliance play and a transformation play. So when it comes to transformation, what benefits have emerged?
Yeah. I think the transformation is mainly aiming at having a modern platform that would give a seamless and frictionless payments for the banks, because that kind of would lower the cost. But also towards the clients, you're in the world of 5G and 6G, where the end customers almost want everything to be very quick. Right? I mean, you kind of take your phone, you make a payment, they want the confirmation to be in a second. So I think, that's one important motive, it's towards the end customers. And I think, the banks have fairly succeeded there. So they kind of, are making the payments frictionless with ISO, but also give a good experience to the clients. But there has also been another very important factor, that's data. With the ISO journey, there is also a lot of rich data available with the banks today. And most of the banks, what they're trying to do is they're trying to evolve new business models. What can you do with the data? Can you predict some patterns on segment of customers? Can you tailor new offerings and new products towards the customers in the market? So I think now data, it's to actually evolve new business models with the data.
And data is everywhere. It's a blessing and a curse sometimes,
Exactly.
isn't it, data?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get sort of a quantification in my head. So how many banks or a percentage of banks would you say have succeeded in harnessing new technology?
I would say it's not much. Our research also says that about 50% of the banks have got there. They really got solutions from the market, which were readily available, and some banks made a tactical solution. What they did is they kind of have still the legacy mainframe-based core system, and then they built something on the top so that they're still able to respond. But that also requires continuous modernization. They have to keep up with that, because the cost of operating mainframes is increasing, and that is not good for the banks. Because most of your costs would go into infrastructure and keeping up the infrastructure, and not being able to spend on developing new products to the market. Yeah, so it's a mix. It's 50%. They're fairly succeeded getting ready-made solutions from the market, and some banks which wanted to develop things on their own, they're slow, but getting there.
Shifting now with a regulatory lens, more and more banks are coming into regulatory scope. How then do they differentiate?
Yeah. I think regulation is almost a baseline. It's no more a differentiator, but I think it also brings in some more trust into the system. For example, verification of PE, for example, it's kind of bringing in more trust into the system. You will reduce fraud, and the payer will be very certain on who he is or she is paying to. So it's not a differentiator, but it's bringing in more trust. But also there are some banks which are looking at different business models with the data. We covered this in the past. I know one of our bank in the Nordics is trying to build auto management capability, which would really differentiate them. They can offer more unique things towards their corporate clients, which they were not able to do in the past. So it's also about building on top of the regulation that the data, and also things like request to pay, where request to pay will play a pivotal role in the market in adapting instant payments, and then really transitioning from the card-based rails to the account-based payment rails. It's a big topic. We can have another debate, but I think there are different differentiators that the banks can build on top of the baseline.
And that's perfect, sort of building upon those foundations. Thank you. That's a great note to end on. Thank you so much for your insights, Sathish.
Yeah, thank you.